So this past decade, I lost several close friends of mine. I had two classmates from high school, one classmate from college who passed away, and then a couple of professors. I had one classmate who died of a drug overdose, and that one concerns me the most because I have an addictive personality, and it sounds like he got addicted to drugs after he hurt himself playing basketball. And I would hate to be given drugs if I were unconscious in a car accident, in some kind of serious illness. I've been thinking about putting in my medical directive not to give me any painkiller drugs, but then I realized that this past year I got over a number of other addictions, and I feel a little bit better about myself over addiction kind of problems. So I don't have a big fear of dying. What I do have a big fear of is living in misery. I'll get to that in a second. So that's the first classmate who passed away. I had three high school classmates who passed away. I had another one who had cancer, but he didn't seem to be in very serious pain during the years that, I don't know how long he had cancer, but obviously cancer doesn't kill overnight. He was still enjoying his life. That's the kind of death that I would wish for when the time comes, obviously. I had another classmate, actually a brother of one of my classmates, who died of some kind of food poisoning. I don't know if it was E. coli or something. He obviously doesn't want to talk too much about it. I would say relatively short amount of pain, if there was any. So that doesn't bother me too much. And then I had the saddest one was my college classmate. He gave me a lot of advice on how to talk to this one girl that I was very scared to death about talking to. And one time, needless to say, I actually built more of a relationship getting his advice than with the girl. I mean, I was still close to him long after the girl was out of both of our lives. A few years after he had given me the advice on the girl, we had been talking about, he loved to do recreational science, and he was telling me how to refine old jewelry to get the gold out of it, turn it into a gold bar. And he told me about how you needed hydrochloric acid and nitric acid. And I asked him, well, where'd you get all these chemicals? And he described how to make the nitric acid, because obviously it's not very easy to buy. And he said you could buy hydrochloric acid at Home Depot. And when he said Home Depot, I kind of gasped because I had just broken up with a girl who was now working part-time at Home Depot. I didn't want to go into that store and bring back all those memories, and he knew that. And he said, oh, no, don't worry about it, just go to Lowe's. And so we had a good rapport over that. And unfortunately, he died of COVID-19 back in December. I had, my grandpa passed away almost 10 years ago now. We have the 10-year anniversary coming up. The last time I saw him, I was in Taiwan for a conference. And I learned the hard way that when I go to a conference or travel, to avoid staying with my family, even if I have to spend some good money on a hotel room, having the travel to myself is very important. I can still meet up with my parents to go out to lunch or something like that, but for the most part, having the personal space, and plus, I usually stay at a hostel to get to connect with other people. That's important too. And sometimes my grandparents, they keep watching. When you keep watching somebody, you just get nervous, right? You don't know their overall goal. So when I go to Taiwan, there are certain foods over there that I can't have in the United States. Of course I'm going to eat a little bit more than I do in the United States, right? Of course. But they watch it and they get nervous that I'm killing myself eating too much. Obviously, I did eat a little bit way too much back then. I would say today, if I went to Taiwan, I would still eat a little bit more than I do normally in the United States. I probably wouldn't be doing 16-hour fasts every day. But you watch and you just get nervous, right? It's kind of like watching sometimes I was just talking about chemistry. I love watching chemists on YouTube, and even I get nervous that they're going to spill acid on themselves. You know, when people work with aqua regia, you get nervous, right? Are they wearing the right protection? Are they going to get poisoning from those heavy metals that after they're dissolved in aqua regia? You just get nervous, right? Stop watching it and just zoom out, right? I'm not overweight, I'm not sick, I'm not whatever, right? Anyways, so I used to pick on my grandpa for that. Now that I don't get to pick on him for that, I miss it, obviously. And then I lost a former professor of mine. He was very nice to me. I used to be a big troublemaker. He was always making excuses for me when I caused trouble. Now looking back at it, I think part of the reason I caused so much trouble when I was a teenager was that I didn't like how people didn't accept me for my own ways, right? I talk about how single lives matter. You got to remember 10, 15, 20 years ago, not too many people accepted that single lives matter. And it felt like you were running against a strong wind current, and oftentimes I didn't know how to express myself. Or YouTube didn't exist, I didn't know how to express myself, and I would just cause trouble instead. I wish I could go back to explain myself. I mean, I do when I still run into my former classmates or former professors. I still try to apologize and make it right and let them know what was going through my head. Obviously, I lost this one professor, and I'll never be able to make it right to him. But I'm not afraid of one day passing away. That's why I talk very cavalierly about death. You know, I talk about how in Chinese certain numbers are associated with death. Because when I think back at my own life, there were so many things that I had to move on from, right? I talked about how I've tried dating a few times, and I realized I just love my single life so much. So I've broken up from 3 or 4 serious relationships. By serious, I meant that they were almost marriage material, but I really loved my single life, my space. I broke up from that. Obviously, I talked about my former professors. I graduated from school, and that was terrifying, right? I thought I would never graduate when I was in school. What else have I done? I've moved quite a few times, right? I never thought I would leave Seattle, right? When I lived in Seattle for 6 years at the point that I moved. I'm in Phoenix right now. I spent some time in Wallace during the pandemic. And I think death will just be another one of those chapters. And sometimes I talk too casually about it. It scares people sometimes. People wonder if I'm thinking about killing myself. No, I just think death is just another one of those chapters. Just like moving, like starting or breaking up in a relationship, just like seeing other people die.